guys, it's July the 16th, 2024, and I hope everybody's having a wonderful day today. I just had to have some dental work done this morning, so my mouth down here is like super numb, and if my mouth seems a little bit weird or whatever, that's why, and if I'm talking weird, that's why. So just want to let you guys know that I'm not like having some kind of weird health problem or something. It's just I just had dental work done this morning. They really numbed my mouth up when they did it, so I want to go ahead and get today's video done. So usually I'll wait until that stuff wears off, but it's just going to continue to get hotter and hotter out here today, so I figured I might as well go ahead and do this now. Today I want to go ahead and talk about do you think that you might have AUD, or do you think you might be an alcoholic? And I'm going to give some points here, for you to think about. If you're new to this channel, you're recently thinking about, am I an alcoholic? Do I have AUD? And AUD stands for alcohol use disorder, which is kind of like the new term for alcoholic now. But like I said, there's so many new people to this channel, and I figured with the amount of new people here, there's probably a lot of people that are wondering, do I have a problem? And that's what we're going to talk about today. I just went online and just pulled up a list off of WebMD, but I'm going to use their pointers and just kind of give my thoughts on it, and from my aspect of what I think that these things mean. So the first thing on this list is you drink more than planned. So are you the type of person that when you go to a party or you're just having some drinks on a Friday night at your house, you buy, let's say, a bottle of wine or a 6-pack of beer, and you sit down, hang out, and just have that, and next thing you know, you find yourself drinking more. Did you just plan on having a glass of wine or two on a Friday night, and next thing you know, you've drank 3 bottles of wine? Is this happening a lot? Are you planning on drinking just a small amount of alcohol, and then you find yourself intoxicated, and you plan on just drinking on a Friday night, and then you find yourself drinking all weekend or drinking all week? These are the things that often happen to us. You're planning on just going over to, let's say you're going to your parents' house for dinner on a Sunday night, and you're planning on just having a drink or two, but the next thing you know, you find yourself having 5 or 6 margaritas, a couple beers, a couple shots, and people are wondering, every time you come by, you're the one that's getting intoxicated, and you start getting those questions, or people starting to ask you about your drinking consumption. Are people saying things to you? These can all be, things to look at, especially if you have people that have been questioning your drinking lately. You spend a lot of time on drinking. Has your life become, is it basically revolving around alcohol now? Is it something that, used to be just a weekend thing, that you would have a drink on a Saturday night or so? It has become more often. Are you doing things, are you making plans now to have alcohol involved? Let's say that your kids have a soccer game on a Thursday night. Are you filling up that tumbler with wine? Are you making yourself a mixed drink to take along with you? Are you filling up a tumbler with beer and taking that onto the soccer field? Do you have a cooler in your car with beer so you can walk out there and refill it? Are you taking little steps and measures in order to hide your consumption? Another thing to think about. Has your tolerance gone up? This is a big one here. And I talked about this. I've been talking about this recently over the past week. How none of us set out to become alcoholics. It's not the way it works out. But if you're like me, when I first started, 2-3 beers, I would be just wasted drunk, and people used to make fun of me. And my tolerance started to increase, and over time, it got to be a 6-pack of beer, And then a 6-pack of beer became a 12-pack of beer. And then that 12-pack of beer, you know, I got tired of feeling so bloated all the time from all the beer I was drinking. So then I started drinking liquor. And you find yourself increasing the amount of alcohol that's taking you to get to from point A to point B. You know, it's a lot. You know, I wouldn't say that, you know, if you're having a glass of wine on a Friday night and you're having another glass that night, does that necessarily mean that? No. But if it used to be, you know, on Friday nights that you would have a 6-pack of beer and now you're drinking a 12-pack and shots, I mean, that's a pretty good indicator that it might be a problem. Is that happening more often? Is the frequency increasing? And is your tolerance increasing? You know, the beer that used to work for you, were you drinking Bud Light back in the day, and now that Bud Light, excuse me, is not cutting it, and now you need a higher proof beer. Are you drinking 9% beers and liquor now? You know, whatever it may be. Take a look at your consumption amount. How much has it increased? Has it increased significantly? That could be an indicator. You're craving alcohol. This is another big one. Do you find yourself thinking about alcohol pretty often? You know, are you looking at your watch or looking at the clock? Let's say you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Are you constantly find yourself looking at that clock to see how much longer do I have until I get off? Is that the first thing that's coming to your mind? Man, I can't wait to get off to have a drink. Are you telling people at your work, you know, man, I can't wait to get out of here. I just need to have a stiff drink tonight. Today's been a rough day. Are you find yourself thinking about alcohol a lot? Do you find yourself thinking about how you're going to include alcohol in your activities? Are you always finding ways to incorporate alcohol into what you're doing? Are you carrying a cooler around with you wherever you go? Do you have liquor or wine? Are you just carrying alcohol around with you and constantly thinking about it? Or you're planning a vacation and one of the first things you think about is, man, I got to make sure I got XYZ as far as my booze are concerned. I need to go buy this bottle or two before I go. Are you trying to, you know, pre-plan your alcohol consumption before you do anything? Are you stopping by the store and grabbing a case of beer before you go on that kayaking trip with your buddies or whatever it may be? You know, the craving of the alcohol, thinking about alcohol a lot. You know, waking up. I used to wake up first thing in the morning when I would get up, and the first thing I would start thinking about that day is, where's my next bottle coming at today? How am I going to acquire my next bottle? Do I have enough money to get a bottle today? If I didn't have enough money for that bottle, what am I going to do in order to get that bottle today? What do I need to do? Do I need to count change? Do I need to go to the bank? What do I need to do in order to get that bottle? I was already thinking about how I was going to acquire my bottle. Okay, I've got to be at work at 10 o'clock this morning. That means it's 8 o'clock right now. That means I need to be ready and out of here by 9 because it takes me 25 minutes to get to work. I still got to stop by the bank and then go by the liquor store because I have to get that bottle first before I go to work today because I can't get off. I've got too much going on today in order to get to the store to get my bottle. So are you thinking about these things, you know, first thing of the day or while you're at work? How am I going to acquire my bottle? Are you leaving work on your lunch break to go to the liquor store because it closes at 7 and you know you're not going to get off work until 8? Are these the types of things that you're doing daily? These are all the things that I used to do every single day to get my bottle. You give up other activities for your consumption. Do you find yourself, let's say that it's, once again, let's say your kids have a soccer game and you know that you're not going to be able to drink at it. Or you find yourself making excuses not to go because you know that you're not going to be able to drink if you have to go to that soccer game. You know you're going to be there for 2 hours and there's just no way that you can sneak your booze in. And you find yourself making excuses for it. Are you saying that you have a headache and you need to stay home in order to drink your alcohol? Or are you getting invited to places and you know it's going to be dry? Let's say you get invited over to a cookout and, you know, one of the first questions you ask is, are we going to be able to drink there? And they say no. And you find yourself going, well, yeah, I'm not going to be able to make it. I got XYZ going on today. I just can't go. All because you know that you're not going to be able to drink when you go there. Are these the types of things that you're doing? You know, are you passing up on doing fun things because you know that either or you're hungover? Do you find yourself canceling plans because you feel horrible the next day? I used to do that all the time. I make these big plans on, early in the week, and then, my plans were on Saturday morning, and we were supposed to go on a camping trip or something, and then Friday night I would overdrink, and then wake up Saturday morning and go, I just can't do it, and I'd have to come up with an excuse why I couldn't go, because I was so hungover. You're dropping the ball on life. Do you find yourself missing out on opportunities because of your alcohol consumption? Are you starting to, get lackadaisical at work? Are you not finishing those projects that need to be done? These are things that I used to do all the time. I was a chef before all this happened, and spent my whole life in the food and beverage industry. And, I would have like a big wedding or something like that coming up. And let's say that, my wedding was on Saturday, and Friday afternoon, I could have stuck around that afternoon, and let's say I didn't have a big dinner service going on that Friday. I had the option of, one, going home early that day, or two, sticking around late and setting myself up for success for the next day for that wedding. What decision do you think that I made often? I didn't make that decision to be proactive, stick around, get some stuff done. No. If I had an opportunity to leave, I left because I wanted to go get drunk. And then I would come in on Saturday morning hungover, feeling like crap, and then I still had all this other work that I needed to get done, because instead of just sticking around for an extra hour or two that evening, I decided to leave because I wanted to drink, and I wasn't setting myself up for success. Are these the types of things that you're doing? Are your hangovers starting to impede in your life? Do you find yourself missing out on things because of your hangovers? Are you supposed to go to church on Sunday morning with your family, and you find yourself canceling because you don't feel well, and you're coming up with excuses? I don't feel good today. My stomach's messed up. Whatever it may be. These are all things that I used to do all the time. I always had an excuse. There was always a reason why I couldn't go, because I felt so bad all the time. Are you doing these things? That's a really big indicator right there. Is it causing friction in your relationships? This is another one. Are you married? Do you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend? Are your family members starting to give you a hard time about it? Are your friends saying things to you? Are you starting to get into arguments with people when you're intoxicated? Do you find yourself being that person that when you call, a lot of times people don't answer because they don't know if when you're calling them, if you're going to be intoxicated with you when you do? Back when I was a drinker, I used to often call people when I was drunk, and that's the time that I would start giving people a hard time and saying things to people, because I didn't have the courage to say something to someone if I wasn't intoxicated. Let's say someone crossed me wrong or said something to me that I didn't like. Did I say something to them in that moment? No, I wouldn't. I would just let it go. And then a couple days later, after I'd gotten intoxicated and I had enough courage to call that person and say what I wanted to say, that's when I would call. But when I would call, I would be slurring my words, saying all kinds of ridiculous stuff, yelling, screaming, cursing, stuff like that, because I was intoxicated. Often people wouldn't answer when I would call because they probably knew I was drunk. Are these types of things happening to you? Are you having problems in your relationships? Are your friends saying to you, I think that you might have a drinking problem? Is your family saying this to you? Is your spouse, your boyfriend or girlfriend saying this to you? Is this becoming a problem all the time? Each time that you open up that refrigerator and you reach in there and grab that beer and crack it, is your wife in the other room going, are you seriously drinking right now again? Or vice versa, is your husband saying this to you? When you're in there cracking that bottle of wine, is someone, in the other room saying, are you seriously drinking? It's 10 o'clock in the morning. What's going on? Or do you find yourself when you just go to open up a soda can, someone can hear that noise and say, what's going on? What are you doing in there? Are these the types of things you're encountering right now? Because that's another big red flag right there. If people around you are starting to notice it and saying things to you and calling you out on your consumption, are you starting to have withdrawals? Here's a big one. Do you find yourself feeling horrible if you haven't had a drink? Do you find yourself pacing around, thinking about the alcohol if you try to take a break from it? Do you have night sweats? When you don't drink, let's say you try to take a day off from the drinking and you try to go to bed, you just cannot get to sleep at all because you just can't do it. Are you getting RLS? Are you getting restless leg syndrome? Or your legs you just keep moving around when you're trying to lay down and go to sleep? And when you finally do pass out and go to sleep, do you find yourself waking up in the middle of the night and your clothes are drenched with sweat? Is this happening to you? Are you shaking in the morning? Are you shaking during the day when you haven't had an alcohol drink in quite some time? Are you going through withdrawal in any sort of way? That is a huge indicator that your body has become dependent on that alcohol. When you've been putting alcohol in your body for so long, your body gets used to that. And when it doesn't have what it's used to, it's going to start to throw a fit. And it's going to start letting you know that it wants that substance, that chemical. Are these things happening to you? That's a huge red flag. If you're going through withdrawal at all, if you haven't drank, that's a huge indicator that you have a problem. You could have been hurt. Have you gotten intoxicated and done something really stupid that you could have hurt yourself really badly? I used to get drunk and I would get on my motorcycle and go for rides. You know how many times I dropped my motorcycle? I can't even tell you. I've had all kinds of bikes. I've had crotch rockets, cruisers, street and trail bikes. The last motorcycle I had was a street and trail bike. I would get to drinking and I would get on there and I'd start riding around in the woods. And almost every single time that I would get on it after I'd been drinking, I would drop my bike. The last time that I rode it, my wife told me, that's it, you have to sell your motorcycle. I was super drunk, had gotten on it, went on one of my trails down here, hit a patch of pine straw, dropped it, and really messed my leg up bad. And I had to leave the bike at the bottom of the hill because I couldn't even push it back up. I couldn't get back on it. I had hurt my leg that bad. My wife said, you got to sell that thing. I held on to it for a little bit after that and then sold it after I'd gotten sick. But, you know, are you doing stupid things? Are you jumping off of the roof into the pool when you get intoxicated? Are you jumping off of bridges into rivers? Whatever it may be. Are you just doing stupid things? Are you driving intoxicated super fast down the road and almost getting into accidents? No matter what it is. You know, when our inhibitions get lowered and we go out and we do, you know, dangerous things, stuff can happen when we're intoxicated. Is that happening to you? Is drinking making you sick? Huge one right here. This is a big one. This used to happen to me every single day. When you drink, is it making you super nauseous? You know, is it one of those things to where you can barely even get the alcohol down? You know, there's a guy on here on YouTube, and I know that there's a lot of mixed feelings about him. This guy, Scott Frieda. He does shorts and some videos and stuff like that. No matter what your opinion is of Scott Frieda, and I'm not going to state mine here, but he does these enactments, and he often does these enactments where it's early in the morning and he's got like a cup in his hand, he's pretending it's vodka, and he's trying to get it down, and while he's trying to get it down, he's dry heaving and gagging while he's trying to swallow the alcohol. That used to happen to me every single day. I could barely even swallow it because it was making me so sick. I was already so nauseous in the morning. I'd already thrown up. And then here I am trying to pour that poison down my throat. My body is telling me, I don't want this. I can't take any more of this right now. And I was pushing it down my throat, making myself drink. And it was physically making me ill. It got to a point where I had to drink just to be okay, to make myself not sick anymore, just to get through the day because I was going through such bad withdrawal. But when I would try to drink the alcohol in the morning, I barely could even swallow it. Every time that I would even get it to my lips and I smelt that smell, it would make me start to dry heave. And often I would try to pour it down my throat and I would throw it right back up. And then I would keep trying. Just imagine the sickness in that. Your body's telling you no, and you keep trying to pour it down your throat because you think deep down inside that if I can just swallow this down, it's going to make me feel better today. And often I would get to drinking, and yeah, I'd feel better for a few minutes, but then I would start feeling horrible again after that. But I would keep drinking, knowing well and good that this stuff is killing me. But I continue to drink. Is that happening to you? Is the alcohol making you sick when you drink? That's a huge red flag. And are you drinking against your own will, even though your body's telling you no? Is this something that you're doing? That's another big red flag right there. You've gotten into legal trouble because of your consumption. Have you gotten a DUI or a DWI? Have you gone out one night and done something really ridiculous and gotten into something? Have you gotten into some kind of an altercation with one of your loved ones where the police called on you? Did you get drunk and act a fool? Did you get in a fight with somebody when you were intoxicated? Have you gotten arrested because of your consumption? If so, that's a big red flag. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen every once in a while to people. You could get a DUI the first time you drink. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have an alcohol problem. But if you've got all these other issues and you've got 3 DUIs under your belt, that's a big indicator that you have a problem right there. You want to stop, but you can't. Here's another big one right here. It's one of those things you keep thinking to yourself that I really need to stop drinking or using or whatever it may be, or gambling or whatever it is. You keep telling yourself every day that I'm not going to drink tomorrow. You keep telling yourself that. Right before you go to bed every night, you tell yourself, this is it. This is the last night I'm doing this. Tomorrow morning, I'm not going to drink. Tomorrow, I am going to be sober. Do you tell yourself this every single day? Because I used to tell myself that every single day. I wanted to quit so bad, but I didn't know how. I was so lost. I just couldn't stop. Yeah, I'd quit for a few days, get a couple days under my belt, but I'd go right back to it after that because I'd get this idea, okay, now I got control over it. Gosh, I was fooling myself. Do you find yourself doing that often? Do you find yourself thinking about how bad that you want to quit? If you're watching this video right now, you're probably thinking that. You probably came here to watch this because you're thinking that, or you're sober and you're just looking for some inspiration to stay that way, or whatever it may be. But have you been drinking for some time? You tried to quit a bunch of times and you just haven't been successful? That's a huge red flag right there. And often what we find ourselves doing is that, if you've been drinking for quite some time, it's become a problem. We're physically dependent. You try to stop drinking and you start, the next day you decide you're not going to drink and you don't drink that next day. It starts getting to 11, 12 o'clock and you start feeling withdrawal symptoms. You start to shake. You start to feel like you're going to throw up. You start to get a headache. You just feel horrible. Your anxiety levels through the roof. Are you having those types of feelings? If you tried quitting and you can't stop, I would say that's one of the biggest red flags there is. You know darn good and well that you need to quit and you want nothing but to quit and you can't. That's a huge indicator right there. Or is it something to where you tried to quit and you switched to something else now? Have you tried quitting alcohol and you decided, well, I'm not going to drink, but I'm going to do this instead? I don't know what it might be, anything out there. I'm not going to drink anymore, but I'm going to start taking Kratom because that's going to make me feel better. Is that what's happening? And the next thing you know, you find yourself addicted to Kratom and you're drinking, Kratom all day long. Because I have friends of mine that have done that. They stopped drinking and moved over to something like Kratom, thinking it was an innocent, it's a plant. It's a natural plant. And then next thing you know, before they know it, they're addicted to that. And they're taking Kratom 6 times a day. And they can't go a day without it. And then they stop trying to use the Kratom, and the next thing you know, they find that they're addicted to that. And then maybe they switch from that to something else. Do you find yourself doing that often, switching around? That could be a huge indicator that you've got a problem. So if you said yes to any of these things, or multiple of these things, maybe you need to take a look. Decide, do you need some help? The thing is, and I say this all the time on here, if you're going to try to stop drinking, please consult with a doctor, because stopping drinking alcohol and or using benzodiazepines, if you stop those abruptly, it can cause major health consequences. You can have seizures, you can lose your life if you try to stop immediately. Please talk with a doctor before you attempt to do anything, and make sure that you're safe to do so. They might want to put you through a medical detox. I've said this a million times on here, but I went through a medical detox myself and it helped me greatly. Don't be ashamed to ask for help. There's tons of help out there. Do I have any, advice as far as where to reach out for help? No, I don't know. It's totally up to you. It's subjective. What works for one person might not work for you. But there's all kinds of programs. There's AA, there's NA, there's programs online, there's this channel, there's the community that's here that you can speak with. There's just all kinds of things. You could talk with your doctor. You could check yourself in a rehab. And I get it. If you can't afford to go to rehab, you can't take the time off to go to rehab. I get it. I totally do. There was a period of time I thought about going. My wife wanted me to go to rehab really bad, but for one, I was embarrassed and didn't want to go. Two, I didn't know where I was going to get the money to afford it. Rehab's not cheap. And I couldn't, I didn't think I could take the time off in order to go. But what ended up happening is I drank myself into oblivion and ended up getting super sick because of it. And guess what? I ended up spending 10 times the amount of money it would have cost me just to go to rehab. And the amount of time that I've taken off, that I would have needed to take off to go to rehab, I've taken that off 10 times now that I've been sick because of all the stuff that I've been through and all the time that I've spent in the hospital. And I could have went to rehab a long time ago and gotten some help, but I chose not to. There's a lot of options out there for you. But if you find yourself in any of these situations, thinking about alcohol all day long like I used to, finding ways to leave work for a few minutes or sneak off to the bathroom to take a shot. Like I've said on here before, I used to always say, I need to go to the store to go get something. And I'd leave. I'd just sit in my car and have a couple drinks and then go back to work. Do you find yourself carrying mints around in your pocket all the time, or gum, or whatever it may be, or Listerine or whatever, so that you can wash your mouth out, or pop a mint in your mouth so that people can't smell the alcohol in your breath? Do you find yourself turning your face away when you're speaking to somebody because you don't want them to smell the booze? Are you ashamed of your consumption? Do you find yourself lying to people about how much you're drinking, covering it up because you don't want to hear what people have to say about how much you are actually drinking? Are you waking up hungover just about every single day, telling yourself every day that today's the last day and I'm not going to do this again? You find yourself just kind of blindly walking into the liquor store every single day, not knowing, even remember how you even went in there. It's just kind of like muscle memory. You just pull right into the liquor store, go in there, get your bottle. When you go to the liquor store, do they pull your bottle out for you when you get there? They already know what you're going to drink. Do they know you by name in the liquor store? Are you going to different liquor stores because you don't want to keep going to that same one? Do you have a rotation of liquor stores that you're stopping by? Like 5 different liquor stores like I used to? I'd go to one day, another one the next, another one the next day after that, so that they wouldn't think that I was coming in there every single day and buying a half gallon of vodka. Do you find yourself doing that? Do you go to this one day and then go to the other one the next day and they think that you're just showing up once a week to get a half gallon of vodka? That's a lot of consumption to begin with, but I was so embarrassed that anybody might actually know how much I was really drinking. Do you find yourself calling off work because you're hungover? Do you find yourself missing out on opportunities because you're hungover? Are there events and functions and things that you'd like to go to, but you decide not to go because there's no drinking at that function? Have you ever showed up at your kid's school for awards night or something like that, and you had to have a couple drinks before you went? These are all things that come along with this addiction. It's nothing to be ashamed about. None of us set out to become alcoholics. We just, started drinking. Slowly but surely our tolerance increased. And before you know it, we find ourselves in the grasp of alcohol addiction. And it's not your fault. You didn't ask for this to happen. For some reason, you became addicted to it, whether it be genetically, mentally, whatever it is. Do I think that there's a genetic component to this? Absolutely, I do. I believe this is a disease. I believe that it's just kind of sitting there dormant until we actually find out that we really do like alcohol. You know, I remember the first time that I drank and I got drunk, the way that it made me feel. I was drinking Mad Dog 2020, the orange kind. I was drinking it out of a styrofoam cup. I remember it that vividly. I was sitting in a car when I was drinking it. I remember it was in the wintertime, that warm, fuzzy feeling that I got when I drank. I remember thinking to myself, I want to feel like this for the rest of my life. And I did. I drank my whole life. Yeah, it's a good feeling when you're in it, especially in the beginning. But eventually, over time, it's not such a good feeling anymore, and it begins to become, not something that we're looking forward to, but something that we know is the only thing that's going to keep us from getting sick. And, in the beginning, it's something that's fun. It's something that we look forward to. And the next thing you know, it becomes a ball and a chain that we're dragging around with us everywhere we go. I know. I was there. And for a very, very long time. There wasn't a place that I went that I didn't have something on me. One of these water bottles like this, I had this with me everywhere I went. There was always a water bottle with vodka in it every single place I went. And the most disgusting part about it is I would have one of these sitting in my car, and sometimes this bottle would get so hot and I would still drink hot vodka. Talk about disgusting. But I needed it. I had to drink it. If this is something that's controlling your life and you find every aspect of your life revolves around your alcohol consumption, every decision that you're making revolves around your alcohol consumption, that might be a problem. And most likely is. And there's a way out of it. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you today that is easy and that it's just a snap of the fingers and you can get through it, because it's not. It's hard. It's tough. It's not easy to do. But the payoff in the end, after getting sober and dealing with that period of feeling uncomfortable and all that stuff, the payoff in the end is so much worth it. Your life would be so much better without it. And I can promise you this, that if I can get sober, you can too. I never thought I would be here. I tried so many times and just never could achieve it. But here I am, and I'm sober now. And like I said, if I can, you can too. I promise you, you can. So, with that said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and hop off of here for today. Like I said, I just wanted to talk about some things and some pointers that, you might be an alcoholic, or you might have AUD. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I'll see you guys all tomorrow. I love y'all so much. Thank you so much for being here today, and I hope everybody's having a great day. Until tomorrow, I'll see y'all then. Bye.